Hi there, welcome to Grey Muzzle Geekery for the week of April 8th, 2019. I'm your host, Dusty Red, and with me as always,
Dusty White.
And this week in the news.
Per Fandango, Avengers Endgame is now top-selling pre-sale movie of all time. Broke record within 6 minutes. Top 5 are Endgame, Avengers Endgame, Star Wars, Force Awakens, Star Wars Last Jedi, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Avengers Infinity War.
So what I'm hearing is geeks have a lot of money.
Yeah.
All right, then. And gaming news, Borderlands 2. His review bombed, and in turn, the first to have user scores thrown out by Steam. Now, Borderlands 3 is supposedly going to be released first on their own store through Epic Games, which means it'll be released 6 months prior to Steam releases, be accessed on Steam, so you could see Steam users being a little ticked off about that.
Mark Hamill is to voice the Chucky doll in Child's Play reboot, coming this summer.
I don't like horror movies. And Dungeons & Dragons is to release a Stranger Things box set in May, so keep an open eye for that one.
And speaking of Dungeons & Dragons, Critical Role hits over 9 million. All stretch goals hit, and still with 12 more days to go. Again, geeks have a lot of money.
And that'll conclude this week's Geek News. So, we have a special guest here this week. Sorry, gentlemen, but Dusty White's fiancé is here in the studio. We have Kalib. Hi.
Hello.
He is also a geek, clearly, as he's running around with a Deadpool wallet. So that should say something.
Maybe a little.
And so we want to access an email that we were talking about from last podcast from our friend BrewGuy85, or Adam. So he asked, what's our thoughts on the new Commodore 64 reproductions? Which, again, we mentioned before, really touch on the whole nostalgia gaming with all these consoles that it's brought out for Sega and SNES and NES, and even like the arcade classics where you could play Joust and Dig Dug and all this other stuff. You guys kind of know how I feel about it. How do you two feel about it? Dusty first.
I didn't really play a lot of Nintendo, but I played the crap out of Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. So that was more my vein or more my wheelhouse when that came out. I like the simplicity of it, but I think I'm on the same side as you. Are these games that I remember liking because that's the only thing I had? I have replayed DuckTales on newer gaming. I think it was Xbox 360, or was it PS4?
It was PS4. They remastered it and redid it on PlayStation.
And there was such a lag, it made me die a lot. So it almost seemed like it just wasn't as enjoyable to play because I don't remember that as part of the game when I was younger.
Okay.
A lot of it that I've found with those, like the games, is they were great when we had them because, like you said, it's all that we had. Mm-hmm. But they're also really much harder.
Well, if anybody remembers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Nintendo,
or Battletoads.
Battletoads, like these were tough games. So, continue.
So it's kind of like, going back and watching the shows from your youth. Like you don't go back and watch Thundercats. Just don't do it.
There's some that I would go back and watch, and then there's some that I wouldn't, just because I wouldn't want the nostalgia ruined.
And that goes back to my point of how much of it is nostalgia. Like, for these Commodore 64 systems or the Atari games re-released, I would not want to put anybody, even my worst enemy, through E.T. all over again. But at the same time, one of my favorite games of all times, well, growing up that way, was Into the Eagle's Nest on the Commodore 64. And it was a top-down, air quote, shooter where you're in again, we're going tropes, you're a World War II prisoner in a Nazi camp, Nazi prison.
Okay.
And as you shoot your way through, you are scarce resources. You only have X many bullets. You have to find keys to get out. It wasn't anything fancy. It was a top-down shooter, but it was revolutionary for its time, and it was a fun game because it was challenging. So I have fond memories of playing that game late at night, and I know playing it now won't hold a flame to the games that are out there now.
Right.
So at what point do you dance that line of, hey, this is nostalgia, I remember playing this, and holy crap, this game's not good. It was good at the time, because there's some games that weren't good at the time that we just remember. Again, E.T. being the big one, and to a degree, Lion King or Aladdin on Sega Genesis that were questionably good.
Real Monsters.
Real Monsters, DuckTales was questionably good. That was actually a good game, though. But how much of it is good for the time? How much would it be good to a kid who hasn't had those kind of systems nowadays? Where I can't imagine letting some, like, exposing to some 12-year-olds, like, hey, you're going to play Fortnite and you're going to play these other games that are visually stunning, super responsive, tight controls, and then all of a sudden sit them down and say, hey, play this. This is what mommy and daddy used to play. And before you know it, you've got a controller through your TV because they realize the controls suck, the graphics terrible, the audio. They're going to look at you for the first time in their life and go, mommy and daddy, I want to go outside.
So here's a question I have for you then. What if game developers turned around and took a almost kind of Disney spin on it and taking, what was it, you said Eagle's Nest?
Sure.
And revamping it, calling it the same thing.
Yeah, but you can call it Call of Duty or whatever else. Like, same concepts. There's only so much you can do with a top-down shooter. There's only so much you can do with those things.
Well, also, and if you think about it, like 4 or 5 years ago is when people started redoing pixelated games.
Yep.
They started, using that nostalgia for the graphics, but with
Are you like Scott Pilgrim?
Well,
or what?
Well, I'm talking like
if you look on IO, like .io, I think
Yeah.
it is, like websites of .io. One of the big ones is what, Zombie Royale or Zoms Royale .io games that are simplistic top-down games or simplistic games that would have been AA, AAA blockbusters in 87, 88, whatever, or late 80s. But now they're literally a college kid's summer project.
Oh, okay.
Because they've gotten so good at that. But at the same time, you said it yourself, you had the joy of sitting and watching one of our friends play Mega Man.
That's true.
On a little dinky projector. How much of that was the alcohol, but how much of that was also the nostalgia of, like, I remember Cutman, I remember Metal Man, to me, Mega Man 2 is still one of my favorite Nintendo games. I remember those levels. I remember how difficult Flashman's stupid laser beam across the screen level was and all that stuff. Like, was that fun? Is that something you go back and play? Or is it something you look at those games now and go, man, I remember those times. I am glad I live now.
Right.
I'm glad I live in the future.
I'm glad I live in save points.
And not having to write down stupid Mega Man codes.
like a 12-digit or 12 alphanumeric code.
I'm pretty sure he had a notepad and paper out.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, his wife... Was it his wife that looked and saw a piece of paper on the floor and was like, were we playing tic-tac-toe last night?
No, yeah, okay.
And was like, no, that's codes for Mega Man.
Yep,
like,
that's
it's in the multi-hash nonsense. Yeah, I mean, what was it for Metroid? The original Metroid for Nintendo was all 9s on the top row and all Ks in the bottom row, and you got to play as Samus without her suit.
I never got into the world of cheat codes. My brother had Power
Game
Gamer.
Genie?
Oh boy.
We weren't cool enough to have
Game
Genies or Game Sharks. Like, we never had that. My brother subscribed to Power Gamer.
Nintendo Power.
Nintendo Power.
Nintendo Power.
Sorry. But we never had... I think he just was such an elitist as a gamer that we just never had that in my house.
So, okay, this tangents a little bit, but it's very interesting because we've played a game that, well, you played a bit of Hollow Knight, and you're saying that you're using some of the walkthroughs to assist you on some of the stuff. When you got stuck in some areas, you used the walkthroughs.
I'm notorious walkthrough.
Okay.
Only because I'm a completionist.
That said, both do you feel that some of these games are designed with the concept of the walkthrough almost needed, and so you're able to hide things in harder locations, compared to, again, when we were in grade school playing some of these games, you either had to wait till them, because we didn't have the internet the way we do now, obviously.
Right.
It sounds stupid, and I sound super old, and I apologize for anybody that's going, there was a time before the internet, but you didn't have the accessibility and the ease of just going, hey, how do I get past this boss? Or, hey, where's the last, shrine for Legend of Zelda? Or where's the last thing? you literally had to wait for a magazine to come out, Game Informer, Nintendo Power, whatever else, or you had to figure out the tricks yourself, or a friend who might have played the game and beat it will hint to you and go, hey, for Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, you need to use the fire on this third tree stump to unlock this area or something.
Okay.
But how do you feel on walkthroughs? Like, you say you use them, do you feel guilty?
There's a level of geek cred that comes with, hey, I played a walkthrough, but at the same time, I feel like I'm getting more of a complete picture of the game.
Sure.
I would say the game that I started using them very prevalently on were the Kingdom Heart games, because there was side quests and collect the 101 Dalmatians and all these
other... A good example
other...
of trying to find a thing.
Right. And and it's obviously just a throwaway. It's a throwaway side quest without it being, hey, Bethesda, here's 1,000 side quests, now go play the main plotline. But the walkthroughs give me a sense of completion and a sense of actually enjoying everything that the game developers put in the game to be seen by the players. Kalib?
One of the things that when I was playing games when I was a lot younger, where I put so much money into Prima strategy guides.
Oh, I know those. Okay.
Like and those were our walkthroughs that we had. Like every Prima put out a strategy guide for every game that came out. And a lot of the times when you would buy it, like, because we didn't have GameStop, we had Funko Land.
I worked at Funko Land, actually. I worked at Funko Land before I got held up at gunpoint and quit.
Funko Land would give you, if you bought the game and the strategy guide at the same time, would give you like 10% off the strategy guide. So
they still do that. GameStop still pushes those.
Yeah. Which is funny because you can pretty much, the day the game is released, you can look online and find
everything you need to.
Right.
Which goes back to that. Is it a good thing or a bad thing having the internet as accessible as it is? Do you think developers anticipate that?
I think they do. I think
they make a game going, they're not going to find this. That 1% dude will.
Yeah.
That Twitch streamer, that guy that's like, hey, I'm going to learn the hack for Dark Souls of if I lean against this mesh between where two walls meet and two zones intersect, that if I put my character on this angle, he will pass through the wall, fall through the floor, and end up in another level future.
Right.
Like, there's going to be the guy that figures that out. But do you think that is it just pure glitch? Or is it like, no, we put that in there or something like that?
Probably 50-50. I bet there's some of it, there are glitches that, like, because there's an entire, genre of speedrunning that people are looking for stuff like that to try and beat the game faster.
To add the 2 seconds to their time or take away 2 seconds.
2 seconds off their time. So I think, there's, and I think developers may put little things like that in
intentional
there on
glitches.
purpose. And then there's some that they're like, well, didn't expect anyone to lean on that mesh for exactly 0.3 seconds before hitting down and B at the same time. Like,
what were some of the first games that you guys feel like you stumbled onto that? I can remember mine, or I didn't stumble, but I watched them get played.
Let's hear yours first.
Mine would have been watching my brother playing Mortal Kombat 2 and learning like how you could get. I think it was one of the game developers would pop on the screen and say "Toasty."
Yeah.
Or
using the
using
special abilities or stuff. Well, that was from arcades as well.
True.
I mean, I guess for me in that case, then. Because I wouldn't say it's a glitch, but it is definitely something like, oh, hey, I didn't notice that. I know some of the early Mario levels, I think it's not the Koopa, but the beetle and the shell. There's a level where if you catch them on the way up the ramp to the flag to end the level.
Okay.
And if you jump on the shell and leave it, you can get infinite 1-ups.
Huh.
So you get as he's falling down the stair and you're jumping up it, you could jump on his head, which obviously brings him into the shell, and then you catch the shell right on an angle where it bounces off the block and comes back towards you as you're falling down, and you bounce again. And obviously in regular Nintendo Mario, you bounce 9 times, I think it is, 8 times or something, and then you start getting 1-ups for everything. Well, if you stay there, you could get 99 free lives. Just bounce, 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 ba-da-ding, 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 ba-da-ding. I remember finding that out.
Yeah.
From a friend at school. Like, hey, did you know if you do this? I went, what? It was like World 5-3 or some nonsense like that.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, and I did it. And
that's the original Mario, right?
Original Mario.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nintendo.
I remember in school we would trade maps for Legend of Zelda, and just literally graph paper maps made out. Here, outline. Here's what's in this room. Here's what's in this room. Here's what's in this room. Oof. Like straight out, just mapped it all out. And then we also have the always famous Konami code.
Can we do what? Up, down, left, right. Oh, Dusty White's quiet. Oh no. Where did you use the Konami code? Like, what was your first one? You used it for Contra. That was the first time. I actually missed the Contra train. The first time I used the Konami code was a game called Life Force.
Okay.
Where it's like a flying bullet hell spaceship dodging thing, and I used it there first, and then I ended up turning around playing Contra and used the Konami code there, which to this day is still a thing that is well known. Mm-hmm. Dusty.
I'm sorry. It was before my gaming-ness. It's interesting you say that, though, because that's talking about the Konami code reminded me of Ready Player One. And wasn't that part of the book? Is he got one of the codes from the book, from the Konami code, didn't he?
It might have. I
listened to it more than
I haven't read it and done it, but I mean, it is so famous in and of itself. It has become its own meme, I guess, or it's its own I guess you want to call it a meme. It's just everybody knows the Konami code. It's just one of the oldest tricks in gaming.
So speaking of things that transcend kind of pop culture, you had another topic that you kind of wanted to bring up.
Yeah, we were talking about an off topic. Since this is, I don't know, what's the date this thing's getting released? The 8th?
That's the Monday, so this will be April 10th that it's released. So yay,
happy April 10th. But we're talking about key dates in geek history. And I don't mean like, Alan Turing was born, or so-and-so, like these important writers, but rather dates that happen within that genre. I could read a couple and we could go and talk about them. Obviously, there are some dates being left out, partially intentionally, partially not intentionally. Okay. So this is your guys' homework. Our listeners, your homework is to find an important date in your geekdom that has to do, I guess, with if there's a particular game that you like, because if you're like Mega Man at 20XX, so good luck finding XX. But what was it? 200X.
It was 20XX.
20XX? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was updated later. I think anyway. But some key dates in geek history. So looking first on the list, looks like March 22nd. Or not March. March 22nd. Which is James T. Kirk was born.
Isn't it March 22nd, 2233?
2233 is when James T. Kirk was born. So he's still got a few years until he's born. So I'm very curious in how many kids are going to be named James, middle name Kirk, on March 22nd, 2033.
I didn't even think of that. That's cheeky.
I mean, it's hopeful.
Yeah.
Let's hope our kid is the next fucking Starfleet captain. Like, I'm planning on having kids. I'm going to be old by 2033. Probably won't be able to have kids, actually. I'm okay with that. So I'm very curious. So anything on Kirk before we move on?
Not on Kirk, but I have my specific one that I always remember. And
is it on our list?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll continue. Anything on Kirk here, or?
Nah.
Okay, so we'll move on. So, not ragging. Again, we are here to celebrate all things geek. So next on our list, we have the big one, April 5th.
First Contact.
The First Contact Day, which happens April 5th, 2063. So that's 44 years away when... I forgot the dude's name, but he first contact with the Romulans, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it the Vulcans? No, it's the Vulcans. It's first with the Vulcans. My apologies. I'm not a Trekkie, but I do know a little bit about them. I have a feeling
one of our friends is going to beat you down for not knowing the specific person.
No, he knows that I'm not specifically... There you go. He knows that I'm not specifically known, and it's okay.
Well, who is it?
Zethram Cochrane.
Right. And funny side story.
Caleb up-geeking you here.
No, it's all right. And funny side story, I actually might have a new listener from one of the contracts I was working at, where I noticed this guy was wearing a Star Trek shirt on Leonard Nimoy's birthday, which is, I think, Live Long and Prosper Day, or whatever they're calling it.
Uh-huh.
But he was wearing a Star Trek shirt. And I caught that. I was like, okay, that's kind of fitting. That's pretty cool. But then I saw him with a Firefly shirt. and then an old school like New Hope Star Wars shirt, and was like, "Oh, one of ours, fantastic,
One of us.
one of us." So needless to say, before I left the site and not going to be working at that location because again contracts. I was like, hey, since I'm not going to see you tomorrow because it was Thursday and this year April 5th was on a Friday, I was like, oh, hey, happy first contact day.
That was fitting.
Dishwasher machine's mad at me. Or no, coffee pot. It was like, yeah, so happy first contact day. And he just like stopped and like his jaw dropped. He's like, no way, you too, man, you too. So it's awesome to have that. Again, mild tangent. He wore a t-shirt that expressed the thing that he's interested in.
Right.
I noticed that. Like, people always talk about conventions, be it gaming conventions or otherwise. Wear articles of clothing, and people who want to talk to other people will notice these articles of clothing and use them for stuff to talk about.
Right.
Like, hey, I noticed you have a grumpy shirt on. Like, haha. Like, I noticed these things that it must mean that you're passionate or have on some interest or find it interesting. Pro tip 1, anybody that starts with pro tip is probably a douchebag. But secondly, pro tip, if you're not sure about something or want to talk to somebody about something, see what they're wearing or see what they have, because chances are if they purchase something of that fandom, geekdom, interest, whatever, be it baseball, be it sports ball, or like I'm a sports fan. I have a lot of Bear stuff and Hawk stuff and whatnot. I'm a Chicago guy, so I follow that. But if I'm wearing a Hawk shirt and somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, what do you think about the Hawks? Are they going to the playoffs? Like, no, they're not. Sorry, bro. But talk to me. That's immediate icebreaker.
Right.
So if you see somebody with a shirt of a band that's not even your favorite band, but similar genre, or something you don't like, I made fun of a guy with a Nirvana shirt. Don't get me started on the Nirvana thing. But he walks in with a Nirvana shirt, you could talk to him. Be like, oh, you like Nirvana? Oh, I like this too. So it's important. You could get away with talking to people with articles of stuff or things that they're passionate about. It's a great icebreaker. Hashtag pro tip.
I almost kind of do the same thing, at least not necessarily in person, but there's definitely the help in Twitter, the Twitterverse, that you can hashtag things that you like. I just had recently a friend of ours, Travis G, had someone post about how she did a county filibuster on Patton Oswalt, and she's going to the Patton Oswalt comedy show in Michigan, and she also follows true crime, and Patton Oswalt's late wife wrote the Golden State Killer book that helped him get caught.
Correct.
And she put hashtag SSDGM, which for me means she's a murderino, because that's the
stay sexy
and don't get murdered. And I happen to say I will absolutely share your Twitter to get her noticed, because she has a similar, because I'm a murderino.
It's another form of geekery. It's another form. Again, I can't express it enough, and especially at the end of this episode, I'll talk into why. But I cannot express enough that we are here to celebrate all things geek. It doesn't matter what you're interested. If you're passionate about it, because that came up in a question earlier of like, well, what is geek?
Yeah.
And our friend Travis also said, like, we're all geeks in some way, and to
not be one
means
shows lack of passion.
Yeah, shows lack of passion in your life. So that's all really a geek is somebody that's passionate about a thing. And now that a lot of those things have become more pop culture, it's fascinating. So
tangent aside.
Yeah, so we're done. So first contact day, go back to Star Trek. Anything Kalib? Anything Dusty?
I'm not a Trekkie.
Hashtag
not Trekkie.
Yeah, outdone me. So we have next on the list. Now this is definitely going to contact you, Dusty White. Do you know what April 23rd is?
While that's the date the silence falls.
Oh, 2011, but it is celebrated on April 23rd. For the date now, I am not a Whovian, so to speak. I know a bit about it. I live in a modern time where there's internet memes and there's enough things to be able to catch, so I know enough about it. And personally, I do want to learn more about River.
River is amazing.
And she seems like
she's my favorite.
She seems like someone I would get along with.
Hashtag spoilers.
Everything's a spoiler, I guess, with her. She's from the... Anyway. She's living backwards and everything's a spoiler, I guess.
Wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So, This would be you. Speak on some on the silent telemark day. Go for it.
Essentially, what it is you mark down because the bad guy of the silence or the enemy of the enemy that is the silence, you see them, but as soon as you look away, they no longer exist. You forget them.
You don't remember them. Yeah.
You don't remember them. So on the day that silence falls, or April 23rd, any Doctor Who fans, you can find them on that day by the tally marks that they may or may not have written on their bodies as the times that they've seen the silence.
Which is creepy as shit. Just flat out, just like I saw a thing and didn't see a thing.
I mean, how creepy it is it when you walk down the side or the street and you see people with Ash Wednesday things on their forehead. I mean, it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, except that they only hope to see the ghost again at some point. Not that they have.
And forgotten.
No, they. Oh man, if Jesus is. Are we arguing Jesus as a silence?
And we've crossed one of our own rules.
All right.
That was actually like one of the more interesting villains in Doctor Who was the silence. And it's because if you think about it, everyone's had that moment where you thought you saw something out of the corner of your eye.
Or deja vu.
Or deja vu. Or
I
something
just
like
figured
that.
I'm just a person in somebody else's Sims game and they just reset my action.
It was just it was a divergent from what they normally, like, I mean, they have their staple bad guys.
Right, Daleks.
The Daleks and the Cybermen.
Right.
They did something different. And
So which is worse, Silence or the Angels?
Ooh. I don't know. Angels are still creepy.
Angels are pretty
The
creepy.
weeping angels.
Well, actually, that's a good dance between the two. Again, I'm not a Whovian, but you do have the fact that the angels visibly are creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, the concept of them is visibly creepy.
To be fair, they're almost exact opposites. One you have to look at, one you can't look at. Like
so you have one that is visibly creepy and is something that comes at you, where you have another one that is more psychologically creepy. You see them, but then you don't, and it messes with your head. So now you're dancing that is the physicality of them being there creepy and make you boop into some point in time. That's what they do, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or have the, I thought I saw a thing, I didn't see a thing, wait, but then again.
Why do I have these tally marks on my hand?
And no, you know why. That's the creepy part. It's not like, oh, why do I have these tally marks? So you obviously have predetermined the notion of when I see these things, I'm going to mark my hand. And you blink, and your arm is fucking covered with them. That is shit your pants material.
Basically.
So it's a cool concept to be like freak you out without you being like, do they like what do they do in terms of danger? Do they kill you or they just you see me now?
They basically started to take over the world because they basically controlled the strings behind in the background.
But they don't do anything to you directly, which is almost terrifying in its own self. Here you have this thing, because again, the angels will clearly go up to you and boop you, and you boop the snoot and you're poof. Whereas
the snoot, the poop.
Yeah, whereas the silence don't, and yet you're more terrified of them in some degrees because of not of what they're going to do to you, but the fact that they're there and they're not, and you can't tell psychologically.
True.
It's a really well written villain, really well written, mind F, so to speak. So let's see. So then we'll jump right to something that's not in the timeline, but I had to write it down because it's May the 4th be with you, and I could hear all our Catholic friends going, and also with you. But I put that in there because it's funny because I did try to look and it dawned on me of like, oh hey, there wouldn't be any traditional Star Wars dates because
they specifically don't put them in it.
Because it happened a long time ago in a galaxy far away. And unless they have the Roman pantheon to name their months after April, May, June, July, August, they're not going to have April, May, June, July, August. Shush, I'm in the Midwest. There's planes nearby. So, that said, I also wonder on how much of the time would be messed with in terms of particular, like, would you start, like, let's say we get into planetary space travel. Would we say it's Earth January?
Ooh, good call.
Because there's different planets revolving at different speeds and different So
different sun.
Different sun. So is it going to be a smaller? So it's like
Day
you
long.
know what humans have a sixth sense of humor where wherever they go, February's still going to be the shortest fucking month of the year. So
Nobody likes February. They want it to end as fast as possible.
I
Do you
agree.
blame anyone?
No, I don't. Like, F you Texas for enjoying your February.
So that's a good call. You would have almost like BC, AD, Mars
Would be just
founded, if Mars founded, like MF, like
Maybe. Like, day, zero, year zero on Mars, and then it would be, whatever. We should have looked this one up. I was expecting to go on this tangent of, like, how long does it take for Mars to revolve around the sun? And then how many revolutions, and you break it all down for what would a Martian calendar?
that is above
like?
my mathematician pay grade. So good on you.
You're our local mathematician, right? We established that?
Absolutely
Okay.
not.
So anyway, May the 4th be with you, and also with you. But it is some food for thought in terms of what would other planets. I mean, obviously Star Trek's onto something using star dates.
Oh, true.
But what is it? What constitutes a star date? Chris, I'm targeting you. Write me.
Write us and give us a thesis on star dates.
But honestly, like, if you're looking at different, what would we as humans in this modern time do? What would Star Wars do? Like, they obviously have their own pantheon, so they would, or maybe their own pantheon. I mean, welcome to, February be Yoda month because it's the shortest of the, anyway. So anyway, we'll continue on. We'll look further into May, which goes into a day I actually celebrate, well, for two reasons. So we have May 25th, which counts as Towel Day, because, don't panic,
Woo!
for all you Douglas Adams fans out there. But for me specifically, I like to celebrate the glorious 25th of May for all of you Terry Pratchett fans. Do you guys have anything on May 25th?
It's 6 days before my birthday. That's really all I got.
It's always about you, huh?
Well, duh.
I unfortunately never got into Pratchett. Mm-hmm. So
You read a couple of them, didn't you?
Or didn't get into it, though. You can still...
yeah,
that's true.
I dipped instead
Dipped,
of diving.
big toe.
Big toe went in.
Okay, so that was definitely more. You were telling me about Night Watch and the specific day for that one, right?
That's not something I'm going to explain on here. Only because it gets crazy deep. But I would highly recommend... Because the thing about Terry Pratchett's work is obviously you have the giant mess, air quote mess, that is Discworld. And that breaks down into a number of side quests / side stories. So it's cool because it's one giant world that's talking about all of these different characters. But if you want to cherry pick or salad bar your story, you can read down a specific line. Now, obviously, we live in an age where you can just Google this stuff.
Right.
But I am obviously biased due to the fact I come from a police family. I come from semi-military and such. I do follow the guards / Night Watch / the Ankh-Morpork storyline.
Bless you.
Ankh-Morpork. I follow all that. And so I am obviously... I lean toward that. I do like the death stories. I do like all of that. That's really cool. But for me, it's all about the Night Watch and all of their storylines. So that being said, I could maybe in a future episode or something lay out real quick for those that might want to follow specific trees down the storyline of Discworld. But for me, yeah, Guards goes into it. It goes to, I forget exactly how it goes, but I know Feet of Clay is part of it, which is really cool. Anything with Sam Vimes, but Night Watch is still one of my favorite books. Does involve a little bit of wibbly wobbly timey-wimey going on. Goes to a point where he's chasing down a killer, so a little bit of stay
True
sexy,
crime.
don't get true crime for you. But it is a really well-told story, and on the glorious 25th of May was a big civil war that really defined on kind of police work where when they wanted to do a burial ceremony for those that fallen, they wanted to give them a plaque that said something like they did the job they had to do. To which the main character argues and says, no, they did the job they didn't have to do. And that was something that resonated with me personally, as these are people that didn't have to, they weren't drafted into this position. They didn't get forced to do this protecting or this stuff. These are people that volunteered and willingly went out and protected people and served the people as police officers. So obviously I have a soft spot in the way that Pratchett was able to exonerate, I guess, or really celebrate how these people are. They're not draft, but they chose to go into this line of service.
Okay.
Just blew me away. So I immediately glommed onto that. So, but we'll go back a step and go into Towel Day. Douglas Adams?
I never read it.
You never read. Oh, that is your homework.
And I'm pretty sure I fell asleep during the movie.
The movie was not that great. Like, Alan Rickman is good,
yeah.
but that's saving grace.
The movie was all right. I mean, it was...
It's kind of hard to fight or fit all that kind of world building.
With any book to movie, it's so hard to fit thousands of pages into a 2-hour plot.
Into a 2-hour plot. And it's something that's dry humor-esque, which goes into, I'm very curious to see Good Omens when it comes out, where it's a very dry humor, British humor. Like, it may...
Gallows humor.
Yeah, it may go absolutely buck wild in England. Is it going to do well with an American audience?
Guess we'll find out.
It'll go for us because we have that dry sense of humor, and obviously I'm a big Pratchett and Gaiman fan. But we'll see in the grand scheme of things of how many people are going to be like, that was a great show, or be like,
I didn't get half of it.
I didn't get the reference.
Right.
Like, maybe it's something we need to watch with, like, Google Maps open so we could see when they make in point of references, because I did that. They make a point of reference of the M4 or something, one of the highways in England that is supposedly notoriously terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I look, and I'm like, there's a roundabout and a roundabout and a roundabout. What?
Roundaboutception.
Yeah, it was like, okay. So, from there, moving on from the 25th of May, it looks like our next date on our list is June 26th. Now we're touching into you comic book fans. This would be the day that Thomas and Martha Wayne were murdered. Murder!
Not Martha.
They didn't stay sexy. They got murdered.
Don't go down back alleys with your small child.
So we started talking a little bit about Batman. And that's going to tie into something that we talked off air. But hell, let's bring it back. What did you think of the trailer for the Joker movie? Joaquin Phoenix as Joker.
I didn't like it. I'm not... And it has nothing to do with the subject itself. I like the Joker. I think the Joker is a unique criminal or bad guy, villain. The only thing the bigger part for me is I don't think Joaquin Phoenix is a good actor.
Two things here, and I'll pause there. Because you tied on to, you like the Joker and you think he's a good criminal / bad guy / villain. Kalib, enlighten us on the 3 versions of Joker.
So, there's the original version, like the Golden Age. Original Joker is known as the murderer thief.
Right.
And then you have the Silver Age, which is the clown prince of crime.
Right.
And the third one, which is the psychopathic serial killer type.
And if we're going to break it down, what are those 3 for closest modern as possible?
So, the thief murderer would be more along the lines of...
Cesar Romano, maybe, or...
Well, I guess that would be the more...
Kind of the classic Adam West and Burt Ward Batman, where Joker there is a little bit of a mob boss, but not really. He's kind of...
Or if you want to go like the Tim Burton Jack Nicholson would be more the mob, like the mobby type.
He's definitely more the
mob boss.
Mob boss. Like Jack Nicholson as Joker is definitely the I've got a crew, like to the point he infiltrates cosmetic companies and makes it very clear that like there's a plan behind all of this. There's a method to the air quote madness.
So.
And then you have like Clown Prince of Crime, which I will always in my head will always be the animated
Mark
Hamill.
Okay.
Batman from Batman the Animated Series.
So that is such a damn good series.
It is.
It is.
And it's one you can still go back to. Not like if you want to go back.
It ages well.
Yes. And then you have your psychopath serial killer style sociopath in your more Heath Ledger style
Chaos Knight.
Chaos.
The literal embodiment of madness and chaos. So that being said, now we're tying into this Joker movie. So one of the first questions that was asked of what kind of Joker is this going to be?
Right.
Like, I know you said Joaquin Phoenix, you're not a fan of him as an actor. This could be a breakout role for him. Because he's got the look of creepy uncle that we all had that gives you a hug at the family reunion for maybe 2 seconds longer than he should.
I just don't, it's hard to see him as, and I know everybody has their opinion, and I know Heath Ledger lived through it too, of how dare he, the pretty boy from 10 Things I Hate About You, how is he going to come
Knight's
and...
Tale.
Right, how is he going to bring to life the Joker? So, I don't want to poo-poo him too badly, but to me, he runs the same vein as Tom Cruise to me. It doesn't matter what role Tom Cruise plays. It doesn't matter if he's, the guy hunting down the mummy or somebody in Vanilla Sky or
Vanilla Sky's good.
even
Mummy was bad.
Cocktail Dreams. It's still Tom Cruise. He's just playing. It's just Tom Cruise Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise crazy.
Yeah.
Just be glad it's him, not you.
But it just... To me, I look at him, and maybe it's because Joaquin Phoenix does have such a very dramatic face or dramatic way of becoming a method actor or thinking he's a method actor. He just, to me, is not... He's two-dimensional. With the Joker being so unique, I can't see him playing something that is going to make me feel for the Joker. And it almost seems like that's kind of where they're going with it, as being a fourth version.
And that's something that we brought up of. So you have those 3 versions that Kalib mentioned. So do you think that they're trying to create that 4th version off of The Killing Joke? That was one bad day could ruin everything. So do you think they're trying to build hey, let's be sympathetic? 'Cause in the trailer, they very clearly having him bathe his mom.
Yeah.
Well, I
and
assume it's
his
his mom.
mom.
And dance with his mom and stuff. So obviously it seems like they're going with a tragic background of something happens to mom or mom goes crazy or something. Who knows? But they're trying to give the audience a sense of, look at this guy. He could be your uncle or he could be your friend or something that, a coworker. And then one day he just loses. He goes batshit crazy. Boom! So part of it for you is the actor, and the other part is where are they going?
Right.
What about you, Kalib?
When we talked about this off air, I agree with you. I like the fact that the Joker doesn't have an origin.
Yes.
There is no there is no before. There is only the Joker. I like that about him because he's got a very different state at that point. He's almost his own.
So do you feel like they're going prequel Star Wars of we don't need to know where the Joker came from?
Well, they're
midichlorians. That's what the Force comes from.
Shit.
Midichlorians.
You're gonna give me heartburn. I think I kind of like it more. No real origin. But if they want to take it in a different, an Elseworlds almost vibe, this is a different version, sort of deal.
Okay.
Almost I'll give it a shot. I'm not. It's not on my must see list for the summer or I guess that's in October.
For fall.
Yeah.
October.
For fall. But it's definitely I will probably still see it.
Okay.
I am the resident not movie guy. In fairness, I will maybe see it at home for completion's sake. But I do say that it does have a couple things against it. You're trying to make a story out of something that shouldn't have a story. I do enjoy the Dark Knight version, not so much of Heath Ledger, although it was fantastic in that. But I do like the idea of the fact that Joker lied about his own origin several times on screen.
Right.
My mother gave me these scars. My father, I did it, blah, blah, blah.
Made it very... Open a Freezy Pop?
Yeah. Oh, those things suck. So it's very clear that, hey, there's no real history here, and that it almost turns it into an embodiment of chaos. I do like what you were also saying, Kalib, about him being not so much Joker being a individual, but rather the Joker being a title. kind of like Dread Pirates, or what's the other comic book character, the Phantom.
Yeah.
The Phantom
good
is a lineage that Brendan Fraser played a Phantom, didn't he?
No, that was Billy Zane.
Billy Zane, there we go. The same thing. Brendan Fraser and Billy Zane is like...
Absolutely not.
Really?
Really?
Oh, I don't know. It's like Dane Cook and... I don't know. I would say Dane Cook and Ryan Reynolds if you like messed up his hair. You never see the two in the same room at the same time.
Yeah,
Oh, that's an insult.
Wait, in the same room?
Owned.
Yeah, the same scene.
Yeah, but I mean, technology could split
Also,
scenes.
that's
Like,
rude
not
to
common.
say Ryan Reynolds is even on this, like...
Fair.
Dane Cook is even on the same level as
Fair,
Ryan
fair.
Reynolds.
I was thinking more of a comedian. He's definitely come a long way since his comedy days. Like,
Okay.
so
tangent
tangent
hard.
king over here. Anyway, so we're looking at Phantom. I did forget it was Billy Zane. I do, again, not the movie guy, but I do remember Phantom being a lineage title. It's something that's handed down. Even Zorro is also a lineage title. It's handed down. It's something that exists through time, not because it's an individual that has it or whatnot. So, so it could be interesting of the Joker being this version of Joker's passed down. Also, because we see in the preview that he touches a young Bruce Wayne. Touches his face, calm down, but does the whole smile thing, which is creepy in its own right. But then you look and go, okay, clearly Joaquin Phoenix here looks like he's in his 50s.
Right.
Creepy older uncle type thing, and now Bruce Wayne here's not even a teenager. So how old is Joker by the time Batman gets, or as Bruce Wayne becomes Batman or whatnot? So you're dealing, but now it goes into another argument that we had of, is Joker have some metahuman powers? Like, he clearly gets his ass whooped by Batman on a regular basis and still laughs it off, pun intended. So there's a lot to explore here.
And that's, I think, why I like the no origin, because it's just, everything's a mystery with him. Like, there's...
Was he the original shooter? Yeah, I agree with
No,
it.
that's Tim Burton.
But I'm just saying, is that something that was actually explored in the comics?
Have you ever
first?
danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Oh, God, that's awesome.
And next?
No, so wrapping that up, I will say this, though. At the end of the day, it's still a DC movie.
Okay, Aquaman wasn't that bad. Hashtag
again,
Aquaman not that bad.
That's fine. And you'll Google over, or you'll do Julie Eyes and have a lady boner over Jason Momoa. I get it. Like, it's what you do. Like, the dude's attractive. I'd have a beer with them. If he shaves, maybe make out. But still have a beer with them. So, and I mean, obviously Wonder Woman's a good movie, too.
Yeah.
So you do have good movies that are there, but DC still hasn't cracked that code.
I mean, they're always going to pale in comparison to Marvel.
I think it's stylistically.
Actually, well, no, with DC, like, I prefer... Like, DC does a great job with their animated movie. Like, their straight-to-DVD movie, like, animated movies are amazing.
Their TV shows are good, too.
Yeah. But their
Movies.
Their cinematic universes...
Is not good.
Dog shit.
But then you flip the script and you go, Marvel Cinematic Universe is setting box office records, and that can't hold a TV show on air for more than a season or two.
Well, I mean, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been on for...
A little bit. I mean, and then Agent Carter was only on for a little bit.
But that was only supposed to be on for... That was only like a...
It was like a filler to fill in a gap
true.
or something. So I think in that regard, I think Marvel's got that leg up, obviously, on cinematic, but I think DC's got a better feel. Like, when I think DC movies, I get a very 300, like the movie 300 vibe. It wants to be
They're
gritty.
very
It
dark
wants to
and
be...
they tried. Like, I mean, a lot of their DC movies started with Zack Snyder, who made 300.
Right. So, but it has that vibe. It has that... You hear that going on in the background. It's got the swath of dark colors painted across it, like the computer game Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah.
Like, I get those. Doesn't it have that feel to it
does.
of that vibe?
That no matter what, you're going to lose.
You're going to lose, or it's going to be dark. And like, even Superman, who's like the ultimate, I'm going to win, and blah, blah, blah. They try to really paint him. Like, even his... I saw a freaking meme. I'm tangenting again. I saw a freaking meme of, like, the Batman effect, where you have, like... Before Batman, after Batman, where you have Wonder Woman and like very cartoonish, and then modern Wonder Woman where she's battle hardened, angry bitch mode, and then you have like Aquaman being like yellow tights and green shirt, and then like after Batman, he's got it's Jason Momoa, gold armor, and
Momoa.
It's Mimosa. It's always gonna be Mimosa. Mimosas make me happy. So you get that, and even pre-Batman, where it's like Adam West running around in Batman gear, and then post-Batman, where you have Ben Hoofleck,
Ben Hoof.
Ben Hoofleck as Batman, being no one knows what it's like to be the Batman.
Are we done?
I am now. So moving on.
Well, and just real quick, because we were just talking about how dark DC is going, DC just released a movie where they're not going as dark and not taking itself seriously at all in Shazam. I kind of want to see Shazam. Because it looks like they may have tried to, like, even Marvelize it. I guess it would be a way
didn't Shazam star Shaquille O'Neal?
No, that would be a Mandela effect.
No, you're thinking Sinbad.
No, that's the Mandela effect.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's awesome. Go look up the Mandela effect. It messes with your head and you go, wait, he did this. No,
it's
wait.
Bernstein.
The Bernstein Bears? Yeah. So, but I do agree. Like, it's...
even if it's... I still want to see it. I mean, it's in the...
I heard it's funny. A little chauvinistic, but I heard it's funny.
Yeah.
You're going on Monday without me, thankfully, so you'll have to report back.
As long as somebody can drive me.
Okay, so next we have on our dates July 31st.
July 31st, the day Harry Potter was born.
Yeah.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Harry Potter, you Harry Potter fans. Obviously, I'm not making fun. I'm probably the worst of the worst geeks here because I do not know much about Harry Potter. It's kind of sullied because I was with an ex-wife when I saw up to Prisoner of Azkaban. I was like, I don't know if I enjoy the series, blah, blah. She's like, they got a werewolf. I'm like, I'm fucking down. So, biased. I love weird creatures. But, I'm using... But it's a case of, like, I just didn't get into the Potter series. I do want to kind of go back and to become a topic later. Tangenting topic, but it's something of note of I'm very curious on what effect it will have on me as someone who binges through compared to fans who had to do the wait of read a book / watch a movie and then wait for the next one. Read a book, watch a movie, then wait for the next one. Whereas I would sit down and be able to get it all in one go and not have the same emotional attachment, the same other issues that would cause that. Alexa, I'm home. So,
I don't know.
Alexa, front room on. Oh, this is staying in the podcast.
Oh my god!
My living room goes off at exactly midnight. So there we go. Anyway, have that emotional attachment of me not growing up with the character or seeing the character in steps. But and my prime example is Hunger Games.
Okay.
My sisters read Hunger Games and they read it per book.
Per release.
Per release. They waited the year and some change per book to find out what happened. I was over at their place for an extended period of time, and they're like, here's something to read, and I blew through all 3 books in like 4 weeks.
Right.
So they're like, so what'd you feel about this? What'd you feel about this? And my attachment was obviously less because my growth with that character was 4 weeks. Where they read the book several times while waiting for the next release. They got to do fan theories. They got to go online and talk to other people about what do you think's going to happen, where do you think's going to go, and they're able to build headcanon and create stories and whatnot. And me, I never had any of that because I went through it. Was like, cool, done. So
I don't know how you're going to. I don't know how that will affect you. Like the movies. The movies, for me, I didn't get into the Harry Potter universe until after the 3rd movie was released. Mm-hmm. So I had to wait for each book after that point, and I was old enough that it didn't have the same vein of, oh, I'm growing up with the character that a lot of people that are Harry Potter
my younger
sister.
My younger sister fell in line. It was every book, she was one of those fans that
grew up with
the series. So her geekdom, her attachment to that is much different and will be much different than my experience of here's all of it in
one go
in 3 weeks.
Right. I'd be interested to see how you go. And I know Kalib read up until, what, the 6th book? And then you were like, I'm done.
Oh, that was actually because at the time when that book came out, it's the one where, our spoilers, I guess it's,
It's been a while.
It's been out a while. I hadn't had a chance to read it. I was going to borrow it from my best friend at the time who was reading it. And she calls me up. She's like, "You're not going to want to read this."
Hi, Kelly. You listen. You listen.
And she's like, "You're not going to want to read this." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And this blew she's like, "Dumbledore dies." I'm like, "Yep, you're right. I'm done." And I was done with the series after I didn't read it.
He didn't read it, but he saw obviously.
I've seen all the movies. Yeah. But
Part 1, camping in the woods.
Part two, camping in the woods, and then some stuff. Yeah. No, I couldn't bring myself back to reading it after that. I was like, he was one of my At that point, the only 2 characters I actually gave a crap about in the books were dead. So I'm done now.
Fair. No, that's fair. And yeah, spoilers. Unfortunately, I know enough about the series, so I will be going in with an unfortunate level of I already know a lot of what's going to happen.
Right.
So it is just not watching for the first time, which again is its own problem. But I'm not a movie guy, and I could have read the books, but I just wasn't into it for my own reasons. I don't know why. It is something that's up my alley. I just didn't get into it. So it's one of those regrets in life, I guess. I'll look back and go, man, I should have read them when they came out. But we'll move on from there. So from July 31st, we will move right into, looks like September 20th. Unification Day.
Or Brown Coat Day.
Brown Coat Day for you Firefly, flibbity, Firefly fans. That's a hard one to say.
That's actually kind of difficult to say.
Firefly.
Fly.
You want to say flans?
Flan.
The Latino in me is just like, flan. What? who got the flan? Tacos flan? Anyway.
Brown Coat Day or Unification Day for the Firefly universe is the day that they unified to fight? Is that what it is?
No, they
went with the Alliance.
Day is the Alliance defeated the Browncoats.
Defeated the Browncoats.
Okay.
And they unified the
space. Yeah, not a space fan. But I loved Firefly, ironically.
Well,
Firefly is mostly a Western.
And that's the thing we talked about. You mentioned that you're not into sci-fi, so to speak, and we're trying to pinpoint what it is. And you enjoyed Firefly, but didn't care for, you're not a Trekkie, you're not a Star Wars person. Which makes me wonder is you're just a violent person. Because Star Trek has lasers and you could stun and stuff. Star Wars has lightsabers and you could cauterize a wound on contact and lasers that do internal damage, I guess, or vaporize people. But you are a fantasy fan that likes swords and crude medical procedures and
true crime.
And true crime.
All making sense now.
So you like the violent aspect of things. You like that, but you're not big for just science solving stuff for you. Robot, go do this, or science, go do this. You're I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna beat this guy with a shovel myself and bury the body with that same shovel. I get it. It's okay. So we'll start wrapping things up a little bit. We'll go then into the next one, which actually looks like our last one here, is 9/22, which is Hobbit Day, because Frodo and Bilbo Baggins Frodo was born on September 22nd, 2968, and Bilbo was born 2890. It's technically the third age when they were born.
Okay.
Obviously, time is weird because they'd be like, it's 2833, and still use, I guess, again, we joke, the Roman calendar of March,
Right.
April, May, September, October, so all that stuff. So for you Tolkien fans out there, Hobbit Day is 9/22. That is all I have on the list there for geek holidays, which I'm hoping that you guys could give me some of your own in your own fandoms. And I'm not talking about the day that Tolkien was born.
Right.
That's in January, I think. Early January he was born. January 1st, I think, maybe. Or I'm talking about days that when William Shatner was born, who played as Kirk or whatnot,
Right.
but rather days that happened in the universe. And obviously some fandoms don't have that because they use alternate calendars.
Trying not to date their own fandom.
Or they try not to, give it a whole, like, yes, this person was born on March 14th. Like, he was born in the spring on this planet or on this give or take time period. So you have to, unless you could really whittle it down of like, oh, there's a picture with him. Matt Pat would do something like that. Would like take a picture of like, okay, well, he was born under this constellation and the moon is in this direction. And talking to Neil deGrasse Tyson, we figured out that under these constellationist terms, he was born in 1922. Your favorite character is 104 years old. Like, wait, what? So I think that's it for this particular episode. I know that our next big thing is going to be, what are we recording for next?
Motor City FurCon.
We're going to be at Motor City FurCon. So we will either record on the way to, on the way from, or should enough free cider and bourbon tickle our fancies, record at the hotel.
Oh boy.
I mean, depending if we ask nicely, we might be able to get Alkali to be on the
Maybe.
podcast, and he that would help a little bit. Alkali and Xander could be interesting to spread their geekdom outside of the furry culture, because they do enjoy a variety of things. Kalib, do you have anything? I mean, anything you want to contribute? Any last goodbyes? Hello, hi, Mom. Anything else?
No, it was really cool. Thanks, guys, for having me today.
I'm glad you could be here. And Dusty White, any closing arguments or sayings before I wrap up with our outro here?
No. Stay geek.
Stay geeky and don't get murdered? Like,
I mean,
ripping
sure,
that off, that's
stay-
what you're thinking?
No, that's bad.
SGDM. Stay
No,
Yeah.
no trademark.
So, not to bring on a somber news here, but it is very important to bring this up. And I'm going to close out with this because it's kind of a big deal to a lot of us in a variety of ways. So you see here, the core belief of the Grey Muzzle Geekery is the celebration of all things geek. From Star Trek to Star Wars, to furries, to weeaboos, and of course LARPers, gamers, and those who do complex math to try to figure out a THACO score. Aha. We talk about communities and the people who rally and support around them and around each other. On April 5th, 2019, the furry community lost an outstanding dude who was diagnosed with ALS in March of 2018. Tony Barrett, better known as Dog Bomb in the furry community, was a chipper and upbeat force of nature that celebrated life, love, friendships, and just having a good time. Even after his diagnosis, he stayed positive and became a source of inspiration for the community. He was a warrior who underwent a number of trials and studies to combat ALS, and even donated his body to the University of California in Irvine School of Medicine. As a beacon of positivity with a sense of optimism, and having just a wonderful outlook on life with hope and love, with excitement and joy. I think I speak on behalf of all geeks everywhere when we say that we'll miss you, Dog Bomb. If you're on Twitter, please check out @DogBomb1 and just see how the community rallied around him in support for him. I'm going to close out this podcast with a quote from Tony/Dogbomb. Never forget this, because it's important. There'll be good times in life, but there'll also be bad times too. The bad times won't last, I promise. When you feel down and things seem dark, don't worry too much. It's okay to feel depressed on occasion, but you have to always believe that better times are ahead, because they are. It's just a part of life, and we will all go through it. The trick is to enjoy the hell out of the good times and just let the bad things roll off your back. Good night, everyone. Thank you for listening to another episode of Grey Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/Grey Muzzle Geekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter @GreyMuzzleGeek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page.